Well, welcome to Why Successful Companies Give Back. We are so thrilled to have all of you guys with us today. This is really fun, and I'm very excited for you to hear from our amazing panelists here. Just a few bits of housekeeping. First of all, my name is Georgia Close, and I work for Free Wheelchair Mission. So you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of my box there, it says Georgia Close FWM. So if anything goes wrong today or you have follow-up questions, I'm the one to blame. You can email me. I'll gladly give you my email for that. And I'm going to introduce our hosts and our panel, and he's going to introduce our panelists here in a couple minutes. But just wanted to let you all know that we are recording this morning, so we can look back and learn from it and share with other people who weren't able to join. If you can, let us know if you have any sort of technical issue or question. Just go to the chat box here and private chat Sasha Morales. You'll see her name pop up, or you can just put it through to, if you can't find that, go ahead and just put it through to all the attendees. And Sasha is kind of working in the background. You see the Free Wheelchair Mission logo, that's her, to make all of that work. And then just a final note, if you can, hold your questions to the end. We'll have a time for that. And then if you can, type them in the Q&A box that you should see on your bottom menu there. It says Q&A, it's got two little bubbles. So who is Free Wheelchair Mission? Why did we put this on today? Why did we invite you to this webinar? I'll give you a quick heads up on that. And I want to share a short video with you and just say, what we hope you to get out of this today. So just quickly, Free Wheelchair Mission is a global nonprofit. We design and manufacture really cost-efficient wheelchairs for the developing countries around the world. And we basically give people their mobility back, which opens up a world of opportunity for them. So what I want to do is play for you a short video that just kind of explains all of that. And we will go into the rest of our day from there. So let me get this started here. Oops, hang on one second, guys, sorry. I want to make sure to share my sound with you so it comes through clearly. Let me try that again. Okay, here we go.
There's a very unique movement in the work we do. It is a movement of transformation, and that happens when we give this person this chair. And you put them in the wheelchair the first time, and suddenly this future opens. And they can start to think about, gee, maybe I could get to school, maybe I could get a job, maybe I could visit some friends who used to visit me, but they're not coming anymore. And then they get outside and they see people seeing them eye to eye. This is just such a powerful thing, and this is what we do. This is what we want to do and keep doing. This is that transformational movement of giving someone a chair. And now, in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, while things have been really tough here in the United States, they've been devastating in developing countries that we serve. In times like these, people living with disabilities are often the hardest hit in terms of getting food and supplies, receiving medical care, and so on. Thankfully, not only have our wheelchairs been lifesavers during this pandemic, helping people to get medical care, but for years now, we have been providing things like masks, gloves, mobility aids, and other medical supplies. All these things have been so critical to the caregivers serving these communities, especially during disasters and emergencies.
My education allowed me to look at problems differently than a lot of people do when they develop a new concept, new product. And that was really what motivated me to start this whole thing in the beginning. We need a more efficient, effective solution to a problem that's huge.
We like to think holistically about our mission, and it starts from the engineering of the wheelchair, and it goes all the way to the emotional well-being of the recipient, the joy it brings to the family and to the community. It goes to the point of making the world a better place. This extraordinary ripple effect that we see, that how this gift has not only transformed the person's life who got the chair, but the family members, the caregivers, the whole community. Maybe now the mother can go and get a job because she doesn't need to stay home and take care of her child all day. Right now, more than ever, those living with disabilities in developing countries urgently need our support. With your help, we can change lives, one person at a time. Together, we can provide the transforming gift of mobility. Together, we can make this world a better place.
Awesome. We wanted to share that with you guys just so you could see the organization behind all of this. So why do we put this webinar together? We as an organization are seeing more and more, because a lot of our supporters are actually businesses and corporations around the world. We're seeing more charitable involvement, and we're seeing that it's almost a part of new businesses' budgets and their plans. And for some of the younger generations coming into the workforce, it's almost expected that they're looking for a business who is, what are they doing philanthropically or volunteer-wise? How are they giving back in that way? And it's not necessarily all in dollars, it could be in volunteer hours, which is extremely, extremely powerful. And we just really want to encourage that involvement. We've seen from our own supporters really wonderful things come from that. And we have heard that really wonderful things are happening for them because of that also. So any charity that you're currently involved with, whether you're a business leader or you're working for a company that you want to encourage the leadership to get involved with a charity, whether it's us or whether it's somebody else, we just want to share with you how that can blossom. And of course, if you are looking for a charity, we're here. Free Wheelchair Mission would love to be your charity, but we just want you to get involved with any charity. So what you can expect to get out of this morning is, first and foremost, we want you to see the benefits to the companies who are participating in philanthropy and volunteerism. And a lot of our own research and things we've heard, but the research actually, which I'm happy to send you afterwards, says there's greater retention rates that come from charitable involvement and volunteerism, even up to 50% less turnover rate for employees, which is huge. Productivity and engagement. Some studies are showing that it's 8% increase when you have and communicate charitable involvement to your team. The benefits of revenue, some have even seen an increase of 20% benefit in revenue when they're really involved in the charity deeply. And a lot of that just speaks to company culture and wanting to be around and wanting to be engaged. So the hope is that you walk away just ready to pick a charity to engage with and take the next step with the one that you are engaged with, or encourage your decision makers to do that. So above and beyond all of it, it really just speaks to who you are as a company and what kind of talent you attract, the people you attract, and your core values. So with that, we really hope that's what you get out of today. With that, I want to introduce you to our incredible host, Mr. Paul Aubin, who you see there with the smile on his face. Paul is actually in executive leadership at Convene. And it's a wonderful group that he can tell you a little bit more about, but he's been there for 6 years, and he was actually formerly the vice president of marketing and leadership development there. He has an incredibly diverse background and very successful corporate executive, a business owner, even a men's ministry pastor, and a published author as well. I don't know how you've had time to do all those things in your life, Paul. That's a mystery to me. You'll have to answer to us. But it certainly gives him a very well balanced and a robust set of experiences to draw from. And he mentors, and as he mentors Christian business leaders in his role, he has just a lot to draw from that he can also share with you today as a panelist if you have questions for him at the end too. In addition to all of that, he also oversees 163 shepherding pastors at Mariners Church in Newport Beach. If anyone is from the Orange County area, that's a big church around here. And his deeper background is actually he had attended Ohio State University for his undergrad, and in addition, Duke Business School and Harvard for his postgraduate studies, and then moved to Orange County in 1981, where he lives now with his beautiful wife, Margaret. They have 7 children and 9 grandchildren. So they are very, very busy people and very happy people, as you can imagine. So with that, Paul, take it away.
Well, thanks, Georgia. You're too kind. As you were going through that list, I was feeling very old. And I don't know, God has used me in so many different areas, but this isn't about me. This is about Free Wheelchair Mission and the topic for the day. So thank you for including me, Georgia. I'm very honored to be here and Convene, just a little bit about Convene. Convene is a national Christian organization that works with Christian CEOs and business owners to build exceptional businesses within the framework of biblical principles. So it's really a joy to be part of that organization. And we fully support Free Wheelchair Mission for sure. So I'm not on this panel alone. I've got a couple of distinguished colleagues, Ed Tarle and Howard Booker. And Ed, if you could just give us a snapshot of who you are and who you represent, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Thanks, Paul. My name is Ed Tarle. My day job is I'm Vice President of Tax for a company, Edwards Lifesciences Corporation. We're a medical device manufacturer with world headquarters here in Irvine, California. So I've been with Edwards north of 2 decades now. We were a spinoff from Baxter Healthcare back in April 2000, and right place, right time. So I basically left Baxter, joined Edwards to lead the corporate tax function. And in my world, we have a saying that there's a tax consequence to nearly every business transaction. And as a result, that kind of put me in a place that gave me a seat at the table many, many years ago when Edwards said, it's time for us, we're doing very well, it's time for us to be able to give back, do things to help the underserved and the communities. And so I had a seat at the table in my role and got involved from day one. And I've not relinquished that seat. I've served on our administrative steering committee that kind of runs our charitable giving over the years. And then after about 10 years, I rotated off. They made me an officer of our foundation, which we later set up. And then I sort of lead Edwards' partnership with today with Special Olympics of Southern California, and I sit on the board of Special Olympics. So that's my background.
Great, thanks, Ed. I think most of you out there might recognize the company that Howard's with, but he's with the foundation of this company. So Howard, tell us a little bit about you and that company.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Howard Booker. I am the executive director of the In-N-Out Burger Foundation, which is part of In-N-Out Burger. To steal Ed's line, the professional part of me gets to work in a cause that I'm passionate about. The mission of the In-N-Out Burger Foundation is to help prevent child abuse and neglect. And we do that in communities where we do business on the In-N-Out Burger side. So currently that's 7 states that we support through our foundation. Typically the causes that we're involved in are surrounding the child welfare system with abuse and neglect. So it's adoption and foster care and domestic violence and homelessness and the like causes similar to that. So next month, I will have been at In-N-Out 21 years, good chunk of my life. And I started off working in one of our restaurants and kind of worked my way up, and happy to be a part of this company. On the personal side, I love the theme of this meeting and what it's about. As someone who was raised in the inner city and went to a lot of community-based programs growing up. I know its importance. And I also raised by educators. My dad he actually just retired after 50 years as a teacher in the Santa Ana Unified School District. So raised by a teacher, my sister's a teacher, my wife's a teacher. I actually went to school to be a teacher. And so saying all that to say, like, community is really important to me, and companies being a part of a community is also very important. So nice to be here.
That's great. Hey, thanks, Howard. And what you do is near and dear to my heart. I'm adopted myself and have a foster daughter. Margaret and I do. So love that you're involved in all of that. That's great. I didn't get a chance before I went on to introduce our speakers. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is officially midweek, Wednesday around somewhere around 11 or 12, that you're in the heart of your week. And we certainly appreciate you carving time out to be here with us for this short period of time. So let's go ahead and get into the questions if everybody's ready, and that'll start a dynamic conversation here. Remember, you can bring your questions into the chat room here or wait till the end. So the first question that I have for our panelists here, for Ed and Howard, is what changes in company culture have you witnessed as a result of employees being engaged in philanthropy? Wow, I'm having a hard time in giving. Yes. What changes have you seen there?
Well, for me at Edwards, it kind of works almost in the opposite direction in terms of when you stop for a second and think about the fact that we at Edwards make life-changing medical or life-saving medical devices, right? And so we've got a corporate credo, which is effectively our mission statement, which is long, and I'm not going to cover the whole thing, but it ends with a statement that helping patients is our life's work and life is now. And just because I think it just permeates the whole organization, that when you're making life-saving medical devices and you're dealing with patients that are severely impacted and you can help type thing, it's just a natural extension. And so that's sort of kind of carried over into our, what I'll call our global corporate giving function, in terms of, I think there's a realization that even though we make these products, not necessarily everyone throughout the world that needs one can benefit from it. And so there's clearly a channel where people are here to say, there's just people in certain countries that don't have insurance or access to medical care. And can we then, as an extension, carry on the work in terms of making this available? And so we don't have to do a whole lot. We basically say, here's what we're doing, anyone interested? And when you've got kind of 15,000 employees worldwide here, it's just they sort of put it out there, and there's, without, in a short amount of time, there's a number of folks that step up and just kind of take it and run with it. So,
and just a quick follow-up question to that, that's really interesting. Do you tend to attract or recruit a different type of employee or associate based on that?
Well, in a way, yes, because at the heart of it, besides manufacturing and selling these devices, we're an innovation company, right? We spend hundreds of millions of dollars year in and year out to develop the best product, right? And so as a result of that, you attract highly educated, very skilled people. And even when you stop and think about manufacturing, right? It's the manufacturing. A heart valve that we make today is all hand sewn, right? So I think just by the nature, you sort of attract a certain caliber of talent. And again, it just not only makes Edwards successfully, commercially, but again, it just kind of permeates the whole organization. And, it just goes without saying that we do it because there's opportunities, there's needs, and there's people willing to step up and make it happen. So
it really helps you define your culture, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Good. Thanks, Ed. That's great insight. Howard, what about the In and Out Foundation? Same question. How are employees impacted by the In and Out Foundation doing the kind of work that they're doing?
Yeah, it's interesting to the original question of like what's changed. I think in general, like taking In and Out taking in and out of the answer, but I think we're in this age where people want to know what companies are doing. People want it to be more visible. Social media, the like, people are just wanting to know what is happening in their community on behalf of their favorite companies. When we look at in and out, like that's something we're evolving in. We're trying to, I always have the quote, the methods may change, but the message stays the same. And so our message has always been, we give because it's the right thing to do. We're not concerned with any of the benefits or anything that come from giving and being good partners to our community. It's, it's more of the why, and as you mentioned, the culture of our company. But at the same time, we realize we're in this age where we need to internally communicate better with our associates to let them know what we're doing in the communities. And, when it comes to the In-N-Out Burger Foundation, that's certainly true. People are hurting as we're in this pandemic, and, instances of abuse and neglect and homelessness and all the horrible things that happen in our society are up. Even though the numbers are down, the numbers are actually say that there's more of an issue right now. And so we definitely want to be able to communicate what we're doing to help and be good partners in our communities.
Very good. Very good. A couple of common threads there. Yeah. What about the impact on morale for folks that are part of an organization like the organization both of you are part of? When you've made the changes, maybe you've seen dramatic improvements, or even getting that message out more, communicating it more internally. Have you seen the needle move a little bit at all on employee morale as being a part of maybe something of a bigger picture?
So Paul, at Edwards, we actually measure employee volunteerism as part of employee engagement. And we just did a survey this past year, and in response to the engagement survey, all our volunteerism jumped from 77% to 83%. Wow. Which you thought, well, why isn't it higher, right? Everyone expects, why isn't it? Because the question is simple. It's the question to employees is, have you given any money, donated any time, done anything with a kind of charitable slant over the past year? And I guess when I first saw the survey results, I was disappointed. I said, well, why isn't this 100%? Well, when you step back for a second and think about we're a global company, and kind of this culture and stuff may not be, say, as important in Europe as it is the US. And when you get behind the stats here, actually the numbers are much, much higher here in the US. And so again, I think that just speaks volumes. When you have 15,000 people all kind of sitting in the boat rowing together, you make good things happen, right? And so I think that's kind of what we see here at Edwards.
And when you do the math on that, Ed, I mean, that's a lot of people. That's 15,000 times what you said. What did you say? 75%. 83%
today, right? So it's pretty spectacular. Pretty spectacular.
Amazing. Yeah.
And Paul, it almost, in my work with Special Olympics, it's one of the marquee organizations that Edwards has chosen to support over the years. And when you have something like Summer Games, where you have all these athletes show up and you're trying to run this venue, right? Basically, all I have to do is put out an email to the organization that says, hey, Summer Olympics is this weekend in Long Beach, looking for some volunteers. And without fail, almost we can get 100 or 200 employees show up with their families for some part of a weekend to just get involved, right? To be there, to donate their time and efforts and talents to be able to help folks that this is so important to. So it's just, to me, it's just very powerful. And again, it's not that anything's ever on autopilot, right? But it's just kind of a natural extension of who we are and what we do. And so it's pretty special.
Very good. It gives a lot of us hope on this call that that actually can happen. That's great. Howard, what's your perspective on the morale piece with employees?
Yeah, that's always a fun one. When we do projects, service projects, or volunteer events, it's really cool, one, to see the impact that we're making in the community and the end result of what that project is doing. But two, we just always feel this, we come away from that feeling really wonderful, but also feeling this pressure to do more because people are hungry, as we said earlier, to be a part of a company and to be a part of helping other people. And so I think morale is high always at In-N-Out, but especially with those groups that do those service projects, you just come away and feel like we need to do more of this. But I was going to say, you know, the word corporate giving, like I look at giving, you know, most people look at it as, you know, financially, but there are many ways to give. And, you know, one of my mentors and one of our former vice presidents, I talked to him one time. We were opening a store, a new restaurant in a, to be honest, a dangerous area, a dangerous community.
Mhm.
And I asked him, like, well, you know, what's our thought process on that? And how do, you know, are we concerned with the safety and things? And his answer really changed my mind on like what giving is. And so hopefully those of you who have been to In-N-Out, you know, we hang our hat on service and quality and cleanliness. And I like to say like a throwback to the way things used to be, where we look you in your eye, we say, please, thank you, you know, yes. And all of those things. Well, that translates to communities too. You know, we hire from the communities where our stores are at. And in a way, like we're giving that community, you know, skills that will serve them, whether they stay within and out their career, or if they translate to the business world. We hear all the time, like, I look to hire people from In-N-Out because I know they've been trained the right way. And so I really appreciated that answer from him, because again, it changed my perspective, because, you know, we are in a variety of communities in a variety of states, and separate from, you know, giving financially or doing a service project, or we're giving our own associates, but really that community, we're giving them skills to be successful later on in life.
Yeah, good. Now you both mentioned that you've got a high degree of participation from your employees on events like Ed, you mentioned that you just throw up a message that you're having an event down in Long Beach, right? For the event you mentioned. How do you inspire those folks? How much is leadership a part of that, as far as setting the tone for employee participation in some of this? Can you speak to the leadership part of this? And if you're a leader out there listening to this, what is your role as far as instilling that in the culture?
Yeah, and Paul, I say, I mean, you know, it's not a heavy lift by any stretch, and people that may know me know that I may not be one of the most inspiring leaders, but again, if you have a passion, you demonstrate, make the opportunities available. Again, you just kind of crack the door open and they barge through, right? And so I don't think there's a whole lot of magic involved. It's just, I think people appreciate there's great need out there. And if there's something, especially local or in our backyard, or something that helps Edwards or one of its you know, organizations, then they're going to do it. Yeah.
Good. Howard, any other comments with regard to leadership?
Yeah, I think for us, it's cultural. Our company has a mission statement. Most companies do, but our mission statement has 3 parts, and the third part specifically talks about the community. It says, assisting all communities in our marketplace to become stronger, safer, and better places to live. So it's built into our company and our culture and what we do and what we want to be about. Yes, we serve burgers, and we need to do that to, you know, do some of the other things that we do, but we also want to be known for being great stewards of our resources and helping out our communities. So it's, when you talk about leadership, it's a part of our mission statement. It's embedded in who we are.
That's great. I'll chime in with a quick story of my own here. There's a gentleman that I coach who's a CEO of a big company here in Southern California, and he has a passion and a purpose to build homes and churches in Mexico. And he's the CEO of the company, and he goes down there at least a couple of times a month for many years, building these homes. And you can see him on the roof, you know, hammering away and actually rolling up his sleeves and getting it done. And he has built quite a culture throughout his company, and such high participation because of the tone that he sets with the importance of this is more than making a few dollars here and there for our company. This is there's a much bigger picture, and his retention rate is just wonderful. He attracts great people, and he's so well respected throughout the organization. It just speaks to the culture, but it has to come from the top, right? All the way down. So good. Just moving on to the other question I have here, which is, there's so many choices of organizations that you can, as a company and as an individual, support with time or resources. How do you select the charities that are in alignment with your culture, your core values, your vision, your mission? Maybe I'm answering it here a little bit, but how do you go about choosing those? Howard, you want to start us
Sure.
off?
Yeah, you did kind of answer that. I think it starts by, the company setting your pillars and setting your standards. There's many causes. Most of them are worthwhile, and you can get involved in many different ways, but I think it's best when you set your trajectory and set what you stand for, and then go after those things. Here at In-N-Out, we have two foundations. Actually, I oversee one, but we have another one called Slave to Nothing. And so, one side of it is child abuse and neglect. And I mentioned the underneath that umbrella, the types of services that are provided. But then also on the Slave to Nothing side, we have human trafficking and substance misuse. And so in general, a lot of things that we do outside of our grants and our foundation giving is aligned with those causes. And, all of those causes were set directly by our founders and our owners. So it's causes that are tied to their heart and have been a part of our company for many years. Separate from those, there's some other initiatives that we believe strongly in. And we basically know what we stand for, and we do things in that arena. And anything that doesn't fit in there, we still try to support, with certain areas if we can. But in general, like, the most attention goes to those things that are most closely aligned with our pillars.
Good. Okay. So, which speaks to the fact that you should have those pillars in place, right? Not all companies have the vision, mission, core values completely figured out. If you do, then your ability to go ahead and make these decisions around which charities to lean into and support makes it a lot easier. Good. All right, Ed, any comments on that?
Yeah, sure. So our philosophy in terms of who we give to, we kind of focus on 3 pillars within our annual giving. And the first is what we call our Every Heartbeat Matters initiative. And this is sort of version 2 of this. We had an Every Heartbeat Matters that ran for a 5-year period that we set a goal of treating 1 million underserved patients, that we kind of blew through that and raised it to 1.5 and met that. And so we've now rolled out kind of the second go round here, where we're targeting to improve the lives of 2.5 million additional underserved structural heart and critical care patients. So much like we run the commercial side of the business, we don't make medical devices for everything. We're very focused in kind of the structural heart space as well as critical care. And so Every Heartbeat Matters kind of aligns with that. But in addition to Every Heartbeat Matters, we also focus on community grants. And that's just kind of meeting needs in the community where Edwards employees live and work, right? And so that's how we were able to support Free Wheelchair Mission here. It was a personal passion of mine, and I was involved and said, hey, here's this organization that we're neighbors basically in Irvine. We're on one end of Alton, they're on the other end, and they're doing great things. And I have a daughter who's severely disabled, who's in a wheelchair, and I got the connection, and I met Dawn, and so it just kind of snowballs, and you make it happen. And so, and then in addition to the community grants, there's kind of another bucket with anything to do with advancing healthcare and meeting underserved patient needs. So it's in kind of those 3 buckets. We have an annual grants process where we say, the grant cycle's open. If you have a program or organization that falls in these categories, you're welcome to submit the grant application. We go through, review it, and make some very difficult choices on those that organizations that we can help and contribute to versus not type things. So yeah, that's what we do.
That's good. Thanks, Ed. That's actually a really good question. What is the process that you both go through in making the decisions around this? Each organization is very different based on size and infrastructure, culture. What does that process look like for you, Howard, and for the In-N-Out Burger Foundation?
Yeah, that's something we spend a lot of time on, something we take pride in, the vetting process of organizations. And so number one, it starts with the mission. You know, we have a very clear mission to help prevent child abuse and neglect. And does the organization fit that? Are they working towards that goal? We do a couple of things to make sure that they're in alignment. I like to say we want to make sure that the organizations are good stewards of the funding that they have before we fund them. So there's a couple of measures with that. We look to community folks that we have relationships with to get their opinions, people who may have already funded the organization to see what they think. We comb through financials, not necessarily to audit them, but really, like I said, just to make sure that they're being good stewards of the funding. There's a lot of other things you can find through looking at financials and audits and things that might have happened in the past. And then the last thing, which I think actually might be the most important thing, is site visits. We go and visit organizations who are looking to be funded or that we have funded. No offense to Free Wheelchair Mission or other nonprofits, but most of them hire grant writers who can paint a beautiful picture of what they do in their grant proposal. But until you see with your own eyes, until you get to meet the people, you meet the workers, you meet the clients, you meet the end recipients, you just don't know. So we do a lot of site visits where we go on site and of course meet with the leadership, but I'm also interested to meet with the childcare worker and the caseworker, the social worker, the kids, really find out what's going on. And those are some of the things that we do to vet organizations.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Thanks, Howard. And Ed, you mentioned a little bit about your process. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, so again, just it's an annual grant cycle, right? And so there's an administrative steering committee that, on average, I think we receive several hundred grant applications, impeccably written normally, right? And very impactful and powerful. And having served on that committee for many, many, many years, it's very difficult to sit there and have 2 or 3 grant applications in front of you. And it's like, wow, this is great. This is great. This one's maybe even better. And you just realize you have kind of a budget you can't give to everyone. And it's just, it's less about picking the right one, but it's the ones that you can't support, even though, it doesn't mean they're not a great organization or doing great things. There's just sort of limits to what you can do and how much you can give. And and it kind of culminates before kind of the pandemic and COVID, we would have a celebration where all the organizations would bring them onto campus and have a little bit of a program to kind of toast them and acknowledge all the good things that they do. And so that's sort of our process.
Okay. What is the hurdle, the popular hurdle that you can think of, if for people that are listening today that really want to get involved in their company doing more of this work and giving to their favorite charities? Is there a hurdle, a pothole, a landmine, a barrier, all those things? Is there something that stands out that they would need to overcome or just to be prepared to face internally or even externally?
Well, I guess I would say maybe the only hurdle is, for lack of a better term, finite resources, right? Especially in these days and times where, we lived through a pandemic, we're living through a pandemic. It's had significant impacts on people and their health and, jobs and everything. And so, timing may not be great if, right now, if the business is being impacted overall, but again, other than that, I think I can't think of anything else.
Howard, anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I talked to numerous friends and people who work at different companies in similar positions. And to the earlier question, it seems like one of the barriers is maybe not a disconnect, but the company pillars, what the company wants to do, wants to stand for in the community, and what the employee wants to do might be different. this person might want to save the whales and the company wants to support veterans, like there might be a mismatch. I think the other one is just where we're at right now. A barrier is we're in a pandemic, and I'd argue that the need across the board for services is greater than it's ever been. However, there's a lot of companies that are struggling, and so I don't know if right now is the right time to pursue that. And a lot of companies are not giving or giving less. So in the current season, I'd say that is definitely a barrier, is having that passion, wanting to act on it amidst the state that we're in as a world. So
Yeah. Well, Ed,
Paul,
yeah,
I would just supplement too that I would have thought that over the past 12 months, with again the global pandemic, working remote, that at least within Edwards there had been a sharp decline in terms of stuff we could do and so forth. But it's actually had the absolute opposite effect.
wow.
And that is just the focus on kind of pandemic relief. That early on, once this was hitting and we saw the great need, we just said we kind of dropped everything we're doing and we're going to focus on the kind of the COVID-19 response. And as a result of that, we donated over, I think, 100 plus what we called emergency grants to organizations that could and make a meaningful impact to help those that were hurting type things. So again, it's just almost amazing how, with the right organization, the right set of people and talent, that, you can make almost anything happen, even through the most dire circumstances.
Yeah. Well, Ed and Howard, thank you so much for sharing your expertise in a lane you're really strong in, and you've been blessed to be involved in giving. Both of you have inspiring stories that I'm sure the people on this call are gravitating to. So we want to make sure we leave enough time here for people to ask questions. We've collected some in the chat room, and Georgia, I'll hand it over to you, and you can take it from here. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I do have a question that I'll ask right off the bat here. So as you all are thinking, click that Q&A button at the bottom of your menu and type your question in there so I can see it, and I'll read it off. But one thing I want to say, there's 53 participants on the call today, and so I'm guessing that likely represents 30 to 40 companies. And there's a couple things that you guys said, Ed and Howard, that were very similar and intriguing to me, which absolutely backs up the reason why we want to do this and share this information. And one of them, Howard, you said employees are hungry to be involved. They're really the ones chomping at the bit when you have a service project going on. And Ed, you kind of said the same thing when you said, well, you cracked the door open and they kind of barge right through to volunteer for the project, for the Special Olympics that you guys have going on. And also, a lot of you guys both said this in a different way, but that they love to sign up and bring their families. And I think those three things, people just barging through the door when it's given to them and kind of chomping at the bit to sign up, that people, your employees, for all those companies represented out there, your employees really are hungry for something outside of the daily 9 to 5. And it really does, all of that really speaks to employee engagement and culture and them wanting to stick around and be involved with you. We see that and we hear that all the time for those companies that support Free Wheelchair Mission. And if nothing else, that really, that keeps people around, which speaks to the turnover rate and productivity and engagement, which always ends up equaling, well, I shouldn't say always, there's no always, but oftentimes ends up equaling better revenue because you have more resources to just retain the people that you know and love and trust and have employed. So thank you guys. Without saying it, you kind of said it. And I see that message across the board. So let me start here with a really great question that I got. And Paul, Ed, and Howard, if any of you guys can speak to this, please do. So this is actually from Julie Miller, and she's on the call. So her question is, she works for a company part-time, and they say that they give charitably, but they don't necessarily advertise it. And she really feels like they're missing out for several different reasons. And she's felt at times like she's wanted to jump ship because she's seen, on LinkedIn, what other companies are doing charitably or through volunteer work. And she's drawn to that culture. She wants to be a part of that culture. So her question to you guys is, let me make sure I say it just right here. So how can I get them, meaning her company, to see the benefits of sharing their giving without making them feel like they're boasting? So how can she get the company to see the benefit to the employees to share about their giving?
I'll jump in, and I don't necessarily have an answer, but I just have some thoughts, and I'll say that is a challenge that we face. I mentioned it earlier, but we have a third part of our mission statement that talks about giving. And I really love that because our company was started in 1948, and that mission statement's been around for a very long time before it was popular to have that. So it's been in the fabric in our DNA for a very long time. That being said, one of our company philosophies is we give because it's the right thing to do, not because anything's attached. And so I kind of hinted at this earlier where I said, sometimes you get to the point where you feel like the methods may change, but the message stays the same. Like, how do we have the same message where we give because it's the right thing to do, and we're not interested in seeing our name in lights because we gave to support this domestic violence shelter, But at the same time, the thought for this person would be maybe, and this is what we're looking at, like maybe we can change and communicate internally and maybe not externally. So maybe we can communicate to our own people, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we've helped this community or done this or done that. It doesn't necessarily have to be on LinkedIn or, out on social media. So we kind of protect who we've always been and who we want to be, doing it for the right reasons and not boasting. But at the same time, recognizing that people want to know what is your company doing? Like, they want to feel good about working somewhere. So again, I don't know if it's necessarily an answer, but I resonate with that question.
I can add a little bit to that. I mean, Howard's answer was perfect. With this, what I was thinking, a lot of it comes down to appropriate messaging, how you frame the messaging, then how do you back up that messaging with your actions? It really does come down to that, because it is a fine line. Are they going to perceive you as being boastful, and this is what we've contributed and we expect a quid pro quo out of it? Or is it in alignment, like Howard said, with your mission and vision and core values? And if you attach those to the message, then it'll resonate a lot better than just promoting the fact that you spent this much money, gave this much money, So, yeah. Hope that helps the person who asked. Yeah.
And I struggle, Georgia, to almost say, well, how could someone be in that position? But I'm sure there's good justification for it. And again, at Edwards, I know we do like an annual press release to kind of announce the results of our corporate giving and stuff, but it's not as high profile. But again, it's an extension of who we are, what we do, and it's about helping patients. And again, there's some part of the world that can afford to buy and acquire, but then there's certain parts of the world where there's just so much unmet need in the world. And it's just, again, a small part of who we are and what we do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And Julie, I know we emailed earlier. I'd be happy to talk with you more after the fact so we can even come up with some tactics, how to talk to your leaders about that. But okay, moving on here. Question for all of you guys. So you both have your companies have really beautiful defined programs for things like this. On the other side of things, what advice would you give to businesses who don't have all of this figured out yet, on how to talk to their leadership and bring in a charity?
Well, I guess to me, it's kind of in the corporate world is you form a team, have a meeting, set a deadline, right? And so I think if you had the right level of passion and people that we're going to make this happen, you just have to get organized and select a cause, rally around it, build the kind of business case for doing this, and make it happen.
Yeah, and I agree. From what I've seen, most companies, like, it starts from the top and goes down. Like, the owner, the founder identifies what they want to do, or there's a committee or the like. But I would say that whoever is running the company needs to kind of identify what is important to them and what resonates and what makes sense.
Also, on the flip side, what advice would you give charities trying to engage with companies?
Well, I think to me, it's as simple as create opportunities where those employees can roll up their sleeves and get involved. Because I know as part of our grant screening process, there's a question on the application. Are there any current Edwards employees that you're working with or doing stuff for your organization? And I think that, again, that's just very important. It's kind of a area we focus on, and that's what I'd do.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I would just add to focus on the why and be authentic. There are lots of charities, lots of causes within every branch. That's, the healthcare organization. Well, there's hundreds of organizations that do the same thing that they do. So I would say, like, being authentic and focusing on the why and kind of what sets you apart, what services you deliver, can really help with that connection.
Georgia, just one other thing I would add is we all have testimonial stories, just like the video you showed. That certainly tugs on people's heartstrings. Once you get one or two of those, or three of those, not being shy about sharing those, because those stories are what, I said messaging earlier, but when you link a story to the message, it becomes extremely powerful. Yeah.
Amen to that. That is so true. We've seen that over and over.
Yeah.
Okay, so this question is very it's timely for what we're in, but for all three of you guys, I don't know how much you do with in-person events throughout the year, but given the year we just had with COVID, how have you both, or all three of you, pivoted from in-person events to the virtual environment with your organization? Or volunteer projects, maybe necessarily.
I'll go. We ironically, for the In-N-Out Burger Foundation, our largest event of the year is our annual golf tournament. And in 2020, that golf tournament was on Friday, March 13th. So as you guys know, that's when the world shut down. So we had to, I hate that pivot word, so I will say adjust.
Brings tears to my eyes.
And figure it out. And so for that event, the only part that we went virtual and we figured it out in 2 or 3 days was on our the fundraising portion, the auction, silent and live auction. But taking that out, we have used virtual volunteer events and projects. From my perspective, and you touched on this earlier, like, more people want to do things with their families. So it's not just about, Joe who works in accounting, like, so what about his family? They all want to do stuff. So we've looked at opportunities to still contribute and give virtually, but also, like, including your family. So, writing cards to military members, or we have an initiative right now where we're making these bracelets for the military, or, sewing a blanket, or food drive, or there's a variety of things that we've done virtually. And we've incorporated some virtual components into our fundraising events, but the most attention to virtual has been through volunteering in our communities.
I would say,
Ed, yeah.
I talked about this a little bit, but I think early on we were able to use Howard's phrase, pivot and focus on the pandemic and being able to react quickly and make it 100+ special grants to help the organizations that were showing great need, right? And but then it's like anything else, everything's virtual apparently, right? And again, I know with my experience with Special Olympics, it's when you have an organization that lives and dies by live events, right? it is very, very difficult to kind of react and change and do something differently. But it's happening slowly but surely, and I think even in small pockets without any kind of big fanfare or focus. It's just people are doing the right things.
I have, we as an organization have one very large event in the summer and then a few smaller sprinkled throughout the year. And we definitely pivoted big time as well to streaming everything live, and when it was appropriate and where it was appropriate, doing small gatherings of 5 people or 10 people, people and their families actually getting together to then watch the virtual live stream. That, we had to become TV producers overnight, I suppose, to figure that out. But it's been fun to see how that has actually helped us expand reach across the US, as where before our in-person gatherings were just local. So very interesting, and I'm sure everyone has a good story about that. Okay, so question here. Got some good ones coming through. It's hard to choose, and if I don't get to it, I will have these saved and we'll follow up with you. Can any of you speak to your company's matching policies? I've got someone here who works for a company who has their company they work for has a really great matching policy, and he's saying this really encourages the philanthropic culture and also can direct specific causes like radical injustices to leadership, to a line of sight to leadership. So is there anything you guys could speak to regarding matching gift policies at your own companies?
I don't have the details. We've kind of done a number of things, but there's a general policy that says that the foundation will match employee contributions to any 501c3. It doesn't have to be the areas that Edwards focuses on, but if you make a charitable contribution, the foundation will match it up to, I think it's $5,000 a year. But then there have been a couple twists and turns, like for example, as a board member for an organization, then there's an additional amount they'll give you for supporting that organization. And there have been some changes in past year where I think we went to a 2-for-1 match through kind of the pandemic. So, but it's a big part of it. Yes.
George, I've got a company where I'm doing executive leadership coaching, and their sales team, whatever bonus they get, they match that bonus with the charity of their choice. So if that person, say, getting a $10,000 bonus for the year, they'll not only give that employee the $10,000, but they'll also put another $10,000 into their favorite charity, which I've never heard before. That's pretty unique. Yeah.
That is very unique. Wow, that's
Yeah.
great. Okay, let me do one last question here, and then for you guys who I have not gotten to, I'm so sorry. I will definitely respond and see if I can pull these gentlemen for you. You mentioned the importance of vetting an organization before you decide to support them. Have you ever gotten pushback from a charity, and how did you respond if you did?
Yeah, that's happened several times for us in many different instances, and it's ended in different ways each time. I think, to do this well, it's about relationships. And so even if you can't fund someone, the work that they're doing is important and trying to affirm them. And so we work really hard to preserve that relationship, even if it isn't a favorable outcome for the organization. Sometimes it's turned into favorable situations. I can think of one off the top of my head where we were going through the financials of an organization and it just didn't make sense, some of the audit notes and things that were mentioned. And so originally the answer was going to be a no, we weren't going to be able to support them, but we went and talked and explained what our questions and hesitancies were. And they kind of came back and explained what it was, and it ended up being fine. Now, that isn't always the case. Sometimes it's just not a fit, or, what they're looking for isn't something that we're wanting to support. But we do try to, make it relational. And, if it is a big question and it's an organization that seems like they're doing really good stuff, then we try to give them the benefit of the doubt, or to reach out and see if they have an explanation for it.
I would
So you
say,
kinda-
Georgia, I don't know, it's been sort of few and far between, I guess, situations like this, but it's, you know, if you have two grant applications and they're both have wonderful financials, doing great things, right? And one says, yeah, we have, you know, 100 Edwards employees that show up for all the events or doing something to volunteer, and this one doesn't, type thing. It's just, it's easy to say, well, you know, is there something you can do to create the opportunities for us to get Edwards employees involved with the organization, and then that helps, type thing. But I can't say I can think of a lot of those circumstances.
Okay. Well, that is good news for charities out there. We usually, if you open up the line of communication to us about something you see you don't like, we're happy to answer it. Those questions are good. They usually make the relationship go deeper. So, okay, well, I have taken you 2 minutes past our time here, so I've got to let you all go. I thank you guys so much. This is invaluable information, and now we've got it recorded so we can re-listen and share it again. We'll send you the link to this afterwards. A few quick things just to note that when you leave the meeting today, you're going to see 3 questions pop up on your screen, just as a quick survey. So answer those if you can. We do have a second of this 3-part webinar series coming in March, and it's actually regarding Free Wheelchair Mission and how we find our partners and our recipients that we give wheelchairs to. So if you're interested, we will make sure to invite you. Just keep that on your radar. It's in March, no date yet. And finally, these gentlemen are all on LinkedIn. So take a good look at their names. Paul Aubin, Ed Tarle, Howard Booker. You can search for these gentlemen on LinkedIn and connect. And we're so happy to have brought them to you today. So thank you all, and we hope to see you again in March. Look forward to talking to you soon.